Now we're unmuted.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, everybody. Welcome. My name's Tosoff. I'm a jazz pianist from Toronto, Ontario. And
I'm Jodi Proznick. I'm a bassist and composer educator from the West Coast of Canada, Vancouver, BC.
And we are 2/3 of Music Arts Collective.
And Music Arts Collective is an organization we formed over the summer. It's an online education platform. Amanda and I are both love playing music and love composing music and love teaching music. And our mandate is just to share everything we know about doing those things with as many people as possible, and including a lot of our great colleagues and friends and pedagogues and thinkers and dreamers, and inviting them to have conversations and collaborate with us on education content that will live in our hub and on our YouTube channel and on our Facebook page. So we're really happy to see some of you here joining us today. And please let all your friends know that we exist and get them to like our page and like our YouTube channel, and come check us out. You can see below our website. So we have a lot of offerings already up on our hub. So come say hi.
Yeah, so on our live stream today, we have a very special guest, our friend, saxophonist, and composer and educator, Shirantha Beddage. And we're going to, you just heard a clip of him playing at the Jazz Room in Kitchener-Waterloo. It was sounding fantastic. Great band.
Wow.
Oh, yes, we do. What do you love about Shirantha, Jodi?
Oh my gosh. I love so much about Shirantha. Well, first of all, he is one of the most beautiful people on the planet. He's just a lovely soul. And I think it comes through in his amazing music. It's smart with heart, it's just smart with so much heart. So everything is so well constructed and designed, and so the design element of his music is gorgeous, but also he plays with such emotion and intention, and he's like that as an educator too, which is why we're really, really excited to bring him to you guys today. Amanda, you want to talk a little bit about Shirantha's background, maybe?
I do. And I was just going to say what I love about Shirantha too.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I have to say that all those same things as Jodi said, but also the way he uses technology, it's made my life so much easier. What he's actually taught me through teaching at Humber, he's influenced the way that I've used the iPad and apps, and allowed me to transition online. And so really everything I'm doing these days is thank you, Shirantha. Yeah, so we're going to talk about a bunch of stuff today, and one of those things is going to be some technology and using it in your classes. So let me tell you a little bit about Shirantha. Okay. So Shirantha Beddage is a baritone saxophonist, composer, and educator from Toronto, Canada. His original music combines hard bop and modern jazz to create a sound that is both accessible and sophisticated, as Jodi mentioned. He has released 3 critically acclaimed albums as a leader: Roots and Branches, Identity, and was a 2013 Juno nominee, and Momentum, 2017 Juno nominee, which I was actually there and played a gig playing his beautiful music that year. As a side musician, he has been featured on recordings with the Order of Canada Band, Susie Arioli, Lala Bialy, Nancy Walker, who was in that clip, and Mike Downs, and many others. His compositional skills have won him accolades such as the Montreal Jazz Festival Galaxy Rising Star Award, recognitions at the Canadian Songwriting Competition, and placements in the Emmy-winning TV series Fargo. It's a great series. Shirantha currently serves as professor of music in the Humber College Bachelor of Music program, where he teaches courses in music theory, pedagogy, and ensembles. He also adjudicates regularly at festivals throughout the country. And he holds a doctor of musical arts, in jazz studies from Eastman School of Music, and a Master of Music in jazz studies from William Patterson University, and a Bachelor of Music from Humber, where he teaches now. So let's welcome Shirantha on.
Yay!
Here we go. Hi,
Hello,
Shirantha.
everybody. Hi, Amanda. Hi, Jodi. Nice to
Hi.
see you
Hello.
both.
Thank
You
you
as
for
well.
being here.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure.
Amazing, amazing. We are huge Shirantha fans and
Yes.
really grateful for not only your gorgeous music, but also your wonderful friendship. So we both just appreciate you so much and thank you for being here. And we're
Oh,
excited to
feelings
have a
mutual.
conversation about your thoughts and feelings in your life in music, and in particular, your adaptation of modern technology into your practice, which is the thing, right? How do you bring the analog and the digital together in harmony like a beautiful triad? Sorry. Okay, I try not to be too silly. Here's your question number 1. You ready, darling? So our question is, how did you find music and what drew you to saxophone and to jazz music in particular?
Well, the how I came to music question is not an easy one. My best guess is 80s pop radio, because I, as a kid, could not fall asleep without having the radio on. And
Mm-hmm.
growing up in North Bay, Ontario, I think we had a country station, we had a rock station, and maybe that was it. And so I went to sleep with the radio on every day. And I guess maybe the saxophone kind of filtered in there somewhere. But I started as a piano player. I studied in Suzuki and Royal Conservatory, and kind of, that's a whole other story. But I mean, it was a really fun. That was my first instrument. And then the saxophone came in 7th grade. I got the 7th grade band, and they presented the instruments to the class. And I went, I want the tuba, because the tuba is the biggest one. And, I could wrap my arms around it. And I figured that was a good enough reason. So I picked up the tuba, and I was terrible. It was 3 just really painful months. I think the whole neighborhood had to go into therapy after listening to me play the tuba. And no, it was pretty bad. And then I switched to the saxophone, and the rest was history. I think just because I had the sound in my head already, and that was it.
Mm. And what about jazz music in particular? So you started in concert band, and when did sort of jazz enter the scene for you?
I think it was high school, really. I mean, I as a kid, I started playing piano, and as I said, I started with Suzuki, and then I went to Royal Conservatory. And when I took lessons as a kid, I was with the same teacher for 11 years, Antoinette McParland in North Bay. Lovely lady, amazing teacher, and just somebody who I really cherish having to work with for as long as I did. I think I was her oldest student. I was 16 when I left, because she typically worked with younger kids, and that was kind of her thing. And she actually said to me at a certain point in time, there's this other teacher who's really more, and I like more advanced. And I'm like, no, I'm going to stick with you. You're awesome.
Aww.
So, and we did a lot of ear training, when we were in piano. She'd send me to the other side of the room, and she would play me some melodies to the piano. Yep. And eventually I think I started to realize that was kind of a strength for me. And then I was sort of balancing my time as a student between learning the etudes at the piano and doing my sight reading, which I hated. And my mom just forced me to do the sight reading. And I'm so glad, because now I can actually do it. And that's paid off. And balancing my time between that and just learning every television show theme song that was playing at the time on the piano. And I just couldn't get enough of that. I had books, but I also learned some things by ear. And then when it came to jazz band, put me in a jazz band in 9th grade, and they gave me a solo on How High the Moon. And I didn't know chord scale relationships from A Hole in the Ground. And I just kind of made up a solo after rehearsal, at home or whatever. Yeah. And that was my first. I knew that it worked. I didn't know what it was, and I didn't know, what the theory behind it was. But that was my first attempt, because the sound connected to the chords and the song, and that was how I got started, I guess. So improvisation kind of was a natural, I guess, extension of that, and that's kind of how I got into it, I suppose. High school band.
Yeah, indeed, for sure.
Yeah,
amazing. Okay, well, the next question is about teaching. So I know a lot of musicians who teach, and for some, it's it's not their main passion. Like they really would rather play, and teaching's a job. And I know for Jodi and I, we feel like both performing and composition and teaching are really equal for us. I mean, right now I think teaching is way up here because of COVID, but all, mostly what we're doing. But it feeds us, and we just see the connections between them, and we don't really see a separation between them. And we're really passionate, and I see that same passion in you. Obviously, I mean, obviously you're a full-time professor at Humber College, but just also in the material that you create for your students, and the care and the material you share with your faculty. You can really see that same passion. So my question is, how did you come to teach, and what drives you? And yeah, what?
I mean, the decision to pursue a teaching path, I think, came a little later for me. I mean, I was in my undergrad at Humber, and then I went into a master's program to continue studying. And at that point, I don't know that I really, really, really wanted to teach. I mean, I think I had an idea about it. I think I probably made that choice to go to study at William Patterson because of the private teacher, Gary Smolian, who's an amazing baritone saxophone player, and the ability to be in New York and connect with all my favorite musicians that I'd learned from every record I'd ever been on, which was an amazing experience too. And I don't know that the teaching thing was really top of mind at that point, but I know that I can't exactly remember, but when I chose to do a doctorate program, I knew at that point in time that would be a good pathway towards that end of things. And not just because of getting a degree or having the qualification or studying with so-and-so, but I knew that going to Eastman or whichever schools I was applying to, especially Eastman, I would get lots of opportunities to have teaching opportunities as a student, as a graduate student. So a lot of the focus was on that for me when I made that decision to go. And also, it worked out because in my second semester of school as a doctorate student, they gave me 3 of my own classes to teach.
Wow.
And, I mean, I had no official teaching experience. And so it was kind of my first opportunity to kind of do something on my own and I mean, try different things. And in some cases I had a lot of mentorship, and in some cases I had almost none, and they were all pretty small classes. So that was nice. And of course the students were really advanced level, but I taught functional keyboard. I taught to the non-music, non-jazz majors. I taught an ensemble class, and I taught a jazz saxophone styles class. And again, like all 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, so really small classes. And so that was a nice way in for me, for sure. And I was kind of spoiled in that, the students had so much, they had so much background already, and we could relate on that level as well. And then right out of grad school, I started applying for teaching jobs and got my first job teaching at Columbus State University in Georgia. So moved from Rochester, New York to just an hour south of Atlanta, which was an enormous culture shock and an amazing experience, really positive. And then I sort of started developing some ideas and opinions about teaching after I kind of got my sea legs a little bit and started, developing my own materials and not having to rely on as much mentorship once I had more experience, But ultimately, I mean, I don't know. I mean, the passion thing, I think it just comes from the fact that I've had so many amazing people guide me along the way. As I'm sure we all have. And I mean, those experiences stick with me, and I really try to pass that on to my students and remember how much of an impact. I mean, I couldn't even list the number of people, music teachers, non-music teachers, people who have just have they've taken me under their wings. They've given me hard advice. They've given me opportunities. They've just done as much as possible to kind of propel me forward. And I want to just take that energy and do it for this generation of students, especially it's cool for me because I'm teaching at the school where I attended. And that's kind of a crazy, weird experience, but coming back was the most welcoming. I was afraid that it was going to be weird because when I left, it was 2002. I was a student. I went to the States, came back 7 years later as a teacher, and jumped into this full-time gig. And most of my teachers were still teaching there, and many still are. And it couldn't have been more welcoming because, the faculty at Humber are just so kind and that, you know, it's been amazing. Still, like, it's still a little bit of a weird kind of pinch me experience sometimes, because I think of my days as a student. 20 years ago, I was sitting in their chairs, you know, doing this, and now here I am. But I'm just grateful.
That's amazing. I love the full circleness of that, and also when your mentors become peers in a way.
Yeah.
And that sense of I'm sure that they're your biggest cheerleaders, right? Like because they feel like they've had a part in watching you thrive. And there's nothing like it. The generosity of spirit, right? When you have people who are just cheering you on. I know Amanda and I both have, you know, teachers, Alec Walkington at McGill. Every time I've gone back to Montreal, every time he's like, drives to any place I need with a bass and an amp, and he's like, here you go, Joe. Like he's just like, he's just the best. He's the biggest, you know, encouraging cheerleader. There's been a number of teachers, but that's one in particular that's amazing. It's been amazing. So there's a lot to talk about. And of course, we are, friends who are watching, going to do a webinar, like a big hour and a half, hang with Shirantha, and he's going to share a lot of detailed information about how he brings his classrooms to life through the use of technology. So I'm just going to get you to give us a little taster, because I know you've been using tech for a long time in your classes in creative ways. In fact, that is something that you are probably a leader on, I would say definitely in Canada. So our question is, how do you use it creatively in your classes? And is there any specific tech, like maybe some certain tech or like apps or websites that you use regularly? And then maybe you can talk a little bit particular about BandLab, because that's what we're going to be focusing on in the webinar. So so just any sort of like, hey, go check this out for our listeners right now.
For sure. I'll do the high level overview, and as I said, well, for the webinar, I'll push my glasses up real high, and we'll get nerdy then. But you know, when it comes to the tech piece, I mean, I've really just trying to be thinking about it from a perspective of problem solving. Really, you know, at the end of the day, I have a lot of teachers ask me about using technology, and that's kind of part of my role at Humber these days as well. In addition to being a teacher, I'm actually partly employed through the Humber's teaching and learning support arm, which actually supports faculty in their teaching practice. And that's been a really interesting journey too. But I mean, a lot of teachers ask me about, okay, what do I do, you know, with this? How do I use this tool, or should I be delving into this tool? And the first thing I always say is, well, what problem do you want to solve? I mean, what is the purpose of this thing? You know, check out things and try to understand them from a high level, which is a lot of what I've done is just try to see how these things could be potentially used to solve a problem. I mean, the whole reason that I came to use iPads and good things like GoodNotes, which Amanda's talked a lot about, I know, in the past webinars. So many of your listeners will already have an idea about that, perhaps. Those kinds of things, I came to them because when I started as a theory teacher in Georgia, I had an overhead projector, and it was fine. And then I came to Humber, and this sad overhead projector was sitting in the corner collecting dust with his little tear coming down the side of it, you know. And I thought, okay, well, I guess I got to do something else, right? So in order to allow that visual element of the lessons as a theory teacher to be clear to all the students, that's how I came to that. And I just wanted to be able to write on top of sheet music and write all the things that I needed to write. And then that's kind of how the iPad evolved from that. And now what I'm doing with the iPad and GoodNotes, like what Amanda's been talking about, is just a visual way of being able to connect the sound to a thing that you could see. And, you know, that's really the practical use of it for me. So for all the technological solutions I've come up with, a lot of those things, they're not actually music things. They're not like, I mean, I do use music apps and things like Sibelius, of course, for music notation software, as I'm sure many of your teachers would use some kind of music notation software, probably. But, you know, for me, that's been a tool, an obvious kind of music notation tool that I can for sure get into. But the other things like the iPad and GoodNotes, those are not, GoodNotes is not a music app at all. Really doesn't even handle audio. right? It's just about presenting visuals and drawing on top of them. And that was kind of the goal for me, was just to solve that particular issue. So yeah, I mean, those are the main tools: the iPad, a MacBook, Sibelius, GoodNotes, Keynote. I use a lot of Keynote for making presentations and videos. Keynote is great.
We love Keynote so much.
I know. And, I mean, and it's a really a fantastic tool, and so I use a lot of that for video creation content. Actually, you know, what I do is when I'm making a class, I will create my slides in Keynote, put them into GoodNotes, and then draw on top of them. And then that's kind of my basic workflow for a class, right? So, I mean, it's really lovely for that perspective, but I use Keynote as well to create a lot of the video content that I'm making. So making, you know, videos for my students, making them for my colleagues, and just trying to make them as clear as possible. So I use that. These days, I'm, also using BandLab, which is for the ensemble course that I teach. I teach one of the big bands at Humber. We have two, and I teach the second level one. And this year, you know, with remote learning, we've all kind of had to figure out for the ensemble directors how to make that work. And I'm doing a big band over Zoom. And as most of your music teachers on this call would know, playing together with this rhythmic sync is a long shot and mostly not possible for a large group of people, right? So you have to come up with a different solution. And so BandLab is kind of what I came to over the summer, like for many of us, investigating new technologies. I'd never used it, but I heard about some string quartet in the States that was doing some rehearsals with it. They've been using it for a few years. They don't live in the same city. And so it's basically like GarageBand in the cloud. Essentially, that's how I describe it. It's a DAW, a digital audio workstation that exists online and that the students can record their parts into. So essentially, when we get together, we have rehearsals or sectionals where I'll have a small group of students playing one after the other, and they'll imitate me, or they'll imitate each other or play for each other. And then on their own time, they'll go in and record into this DAW. And that's kind of how I'm running my class. And it's a way to be able to compile all these recordings together without all the file wrangling. And then they can also kind of get to know some things about mixing and balance and blend and kind of see it as they go and build this thing together. So that's been my new adventure, is kind of delving into that. So yeah, that's a new season for me, but I'll get more into BandLab next time for sure.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious to hear how you're using it. Amanda, should we had talked about the tutorial that we're going to show?
Yeah, we're going to share a clip of a video that Shirantha made for Humber College, right? I believe this one?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you want to give us a little bit of info about like what it's on and how you made the actual video? I'm curious about that too. If you used a certain program.
Yes. So this is a short video on Sibelius that I made for my students in my music theory classes. So we typically will do in our music theory classes and in the second year class, which Amanda also teaches in, I should say, and is doing a great job. When we have those theory classes, we had made a decision a few years ago to try and integrate some notation software into the classes. We used to have a technology class where they learn Sibelius, and we have site licenses for Sibelius on the campus, and the students have access, you know, usually. And so we are trying to integrate these notation things into the classroom now. So in the first year, I typically teach very analog, you know, we're writing on paper and we're doing the old manuscript paper thing, and it's great. And then in the second year, I kind of transition into Sibelius and sort of assign them projects as they go based on different skills. So for example, you know, maybe there's a small lead sheet that they have to make, or the final project is something more complicated with a score with a few different instruments and maybe a little backing track with a bass line and some keyboard comping or something, like just to give yourself an idea as a composer as to what this finished product is going to sound like before you hand it to a band, which is one of the nice things that notation software can do, even though the instrument sounds aren't always like amazing, especially not saxophones. Piano, that's okay, you know.
Yeah,
Bass is
okay.
bass is yeah.
Okay.
But the winds, like the saxophone is not
pretty
so
bad.
good. But you can at least get a sense of the thing, right? Yeah. So what I'm doing in this video is I'm setting up a project for the students where they have to create a lead sheet, I think, with a bass line and some simple comping. And for me, if I had to tap all those notes in with a mouse and a trackpad or something like that and a pointer, I would take forever. But as a piano player, I always take advantage of a MIDI keyboard, and I have a MIDI keyboard hooked up to my computer all the time. I have one right next to me here. And anytime I need to enter in music notation, that's my default, because it's from my understanding, the fastest and maybe the most musical method of entering notes into a piece of notation software, especially since you can audition the notes before you commit to them rhythmically, which is what I'm going to show you here, right? So when I came over to Sibelius, I was coming over from Finale, longtime Finale user, and the only reason that I switched over to Sibelius was because I got a job at Humber and everybody at Humber used them. And I thought, oh, well, I guess I need to just, focus on one piece of software as opposed to two, or, I didn't really need to have I needed to spend the time in it. So I gave up Finale just to focus on Sibelius. And that's when I realized that Sibelius wasn't set up to do it this exact way, like it is in Finale by default, where you have to commit to the rhythm before you assign a pitch to it. Whereas in Finale, you can commit to a pitch before you assign it a rhythm, which I think is much, much better, because you can hear the note before you tell the program how long the note's supposed to be. So you can set it up in Sibelius to do it that way and make it exactly like Finale, which is what I show you in the video as well.
Amazing.
Okay, we'll listen to a portion of the video now. Here we go.
So now that we've got our basic score set up, I'm going to show you a few different things that will really help to, I think, improve your workflow in Sibelius in a way that I think is a lot more musical of a process than entering using the laptop keypad, and that is using a MIDI keyboard. That's what we're going to talk about briefly in this video. And there's a few things that I like about this. One, it's a little bit more of a musical approach, because me being a piano player, I can feel like when I'm using a piece of software like this to enter in some music and get some ideas going, it feels a bit more of a musical process for me to actually get my hands on an instrument rather than have to use a keypad that has a certain degree of accuracy or inaccuracy. I find it's a lot more accurate of a way to be able to enter notes, and above all else, it's a whole lot faster when it comes to note input and editing. So in the preferences menu in Sibelius, you have to make sure, first of all, that after your MIDI keyboard is plugged in, that it's set up properly. So the first thing that we need to go do is in the preferences menu, go over to input devices and take a look and see that your MIDI keyboard is being registered here. Depending on what kind of keyboard you have, this may or may not be indicated automatically. If you don't see it here on this list, go down to here and click find new input devices, and you should see that your particular MIDI keyboard is going to be ready to go. So once that's done, there's one more step before you can kind of do things in a way that I think is a more musical approach, and that is the note input method. Click note input, and you'll notice that by default, Sibelius tends to pick duration before pitch. That works pretty well if you're using a keypad, but if you're using a MIDI keyboard, I vastly prefer pitch before duration, which means that, of course, we're going to hit the pitch on our MIDI keyboard and then commit to a rhythm after we've made sure that the pitch that we want is actually the pitch that we want. So I find that this works really, really well. So click that. Of course, you're going to want to make sure that this is selected, use MIDI keyboard. And also, then you get to pick your quarter note value, and everything else will relate to that. I go with 5 because this is the same exact setup that I used to use on Finale when I was a Finale user, and still am. So I find that consistency between platforms is really, really helpful for your workflow. Okay, click OK, and then we're going to head back into the score. Now, since we're going to write a quick little contrafact on the melody of All the Things You Are, the first thing that I want to make sure is that I've got my parameters set up so that I can work quickly and efficiently. If I know we're going to work in the same basic kind of form as All the Things You Are, say for the first 16 bars here, I know these are going to be 8-bar phrases, so I find it really helpful to go to the notations menu, click bar line, and then just put our double bar lines in at the very beginning so that I know that we're dealing in 8-bar phrases here, and I'm much less likely to mess things up when it comes to formatting. Okay, the next thing that I'm going to do before we even put the bass line and the comping in,
haven't done the melody yet, but that's okay. I'm just going to set up something which will allow me to hear the basic harmony even as I'm just writing straight away. So I'm going to do a tune that's kind of in a medium swing style, which means there's going to be a walking bass line, there's going to be some basic comping, and there's going to be some changes, of course. So to give myself the right parameters, I'm going to quickly select the piano staff, hit Command K for chord, and just start typing in all the basic chords for all the things you are. So between bars, I'm going to hit Tab. And then when we get to a bar with 2 chords, I'm going to use the space bar. And Sibelius makes it really, really easy to be able to go through and format things in a way that's very, very nice and easy to read. And as I mentioned before in previous videos, I've set up these chord symbols in a way that's exactly the same as the way that we use them in our theory text, which is a nice, clean, and easy method for me. I've also changed the font size because I find it never hurts to have fonts that are a little bit bigger when you're writing chord symbols. Okay, so now I know what the basic chords are for this piece, and what I'm going to do next is quickly pop in a bass line. So you can't see my hands, of course, but what I'm doing is just playing individual notes on the MIDI keyboard. You can't hear them, but I've got it set up to mute so that I can just focus on talking to you right now. But on your system, you should be able to actually hear the notes, I believe, when you're playing them in like this. So this is very valuable because, of course, you can also see the notes on the staff and see which enharmonic Sibelius is going to commit to once you hit the rhythmic value. So what I'm going to do is start plunking in a bass line that's in quarter notes to keep it really simple, which means I'm only going to need 1 rhythmic value, and that's the quarter note. So as I mentioned before, I'm going to hit 5. It might be 4 on your keyboard, depending on how you've set it up. So let's see how quickly this is going to work out. I'm going to pop in a simple bass line. And now we have everything that we need. So you saw how fast that was. That was done in a matter of seconds. Now, of course, some of the things that you get with a keypad entry is that you get to pick your enharmonic correctly right away if you want to. So, of course, with these chords, I'm going to want to go through and change some of these enharmonics. It's very quick and easy to do if you just select the note head and then you just press Enter. It's going to flip the enharmonic for you very quickly and easily. You can do this with whole groups of notes as well. And now we've got a bunch of enharmonics that actually work for the chord. Everything's good here. Now, we could, of course, go through and do the same thing with the piano comping. So let's see how quickly we can make that happen. I'm going to switch.
I'm going to unmute us. There we are. That's fantastic, Shirantha. I'm going to go back and watch that again later and get set up because I actually don't have a MIDI keyboard set up. You're going to change my life yet again. Yeah. So
I have mine set up, but I think I needed to write. So here's the anyway, this is a conversation for another time, but I have to write my tune for a classical piano. So I have the MIDI set up and I was starting to just comp through the chords. I'm actually going to get my husband to come, who's amazing, to come and comp through the chords. Anyway, so this is going to be really handy for me too, because yeah, the little trick about not giving that, because when you actually comp in time, the rhythm is hilarious. It's hilarious. I mean, it's like laughable. I'm like, well, maybe she's a brilliant pianist. Maybe she'll be able to read this, but wow, is that really the actual rhythm we're playing? Wow, we're kind of heavy. Jazz rhythm is like insane when you actually notate it out. in real time.
A
Like,
5 over
Yeah.
6
oh my
over,
gosh,
yeah.
like all kinds of
Mm.
crazy, just the feel thing it becomes a real interesting notation. So
I mean, what I like about this method is that it feels like this is just one of those things where when I've been able to set up my technologies in a way like this, it gets out of the way so that I
Yeah.
can just be creative and do it
100%.
similarly to what I would be doing if I was just sitting at the piano writing a tune. This isn't more than a couple of steps removed from that, which is what I like about it. It's a more musical approach for me, and that's why I really stress it, especially for piano players, but for non-piano players, like professional piano players or whatever. I mean, if you have enough skill to be able to play one note at a time, I still think it's worth trying.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, for sure.
100%. So that's the whole thing that we're aiming for with is how to get things flowing. How do you get from your idea to making a thing? And how do you use technology to help that pathway be flowing? And so bringing this information is so great. It's so great. And I know that you value that and you really think a lot about that, about keep getting the keep opening those doors so that people can realize their music as quickly as possible and make stuff because it's fun. Oh,
Yes.
so good, Shirantha. And I cannot wait to be on our next webinar to get more. We need to have you do more. That's just what we're going to do. We're just going to make more stuff to share. Yeah. And I'm just also thinking that, a keynote one would be good too, because I think some people don't really know how to work Keynote if they have a Mac. And I know that all three of us have been using it. We're learning about all of the animation and the embedding the music and the video and the colors and the design and all that stuff. It's great. So good. So
maybe
should we do our speed round, Amanda?
Yeah. I was going to say too, maybe we can factor in a little bit of that in our December 13th webinar.
100%.
Perhaps.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Okay. We can. Yeah.
I'll put on my Apple Distinguished Educator hoodie when we do it.
Yes.
Do you have one for real?
Yes. I got it at the global conference in Houston a couple of years. In Austin a couple of years ago. Yeah.
We're gonna have to get good enough to be able to go with Shirantha, Amanda.
Oh, you both are. You're absolutely are.
Well, we're not kids anyway. So listen, we have kind of a speed round now. Did you want to say something first, Amanda, or you're?
No, I was just getting excited about.
Oh yeah, we're excited. Okay, so this is we call it the Take 5. Easy but true. It's a Take 5 speed question. So, I'll start. What musician, dead or alive, would you love to have dinner with?
Chris Potter. He's an easy guy to talk to.
Okay.
Super easy to talk to.
Amazing. Amanda.
What education podcast or resource would you recommend? First thing that comes to mind.
There's this great company called Music Arts Collective. They have some amazing things they're doing. So in addition to what you all are doing, which is amazing.
Good answer.
I mean, really, we can just stop there. Bye, buddy. When it comes to other resources, aside from the wonderful stuff that you all are putting out, Amanda, you recommended me the Cult of Pedagogy. Great. I like for music specific resources. I think K-12 focus more is Katie Wardrobe's stuff from I think she's from Australia. Midnight Music, Music Tech Teacher podcast, I think is what it's called. That she has a whole thing, Midnight Music, and as far as those resources, those are good for the Mac nerdy stuff. There's a podcast called Mac Power Users. It's not education specific, but there are educators and actually music educators that have gone on there in addition to me. But there's been others. Lots of places. I'm actually going to be a podcast host myself in January. Yes, Humber is reviving their teaching and learning podcasts.
Great.
We're settling on a name, so we haven't. I can't reveal to you what my pick is for the name, but it's not officially settled yet. But we have recorded part of the first episode, so we are going to be putting out some teaching and learning resources of our own in January.
So
well.
good. So, but it's more like broad teaching and learning.
Yes,
Right.
we're interviewing faculty. We're doing sort of like casual chats with groups
Right.
of faculty. We're doing interviews. We're doing tips from the teaching and learning support team. So every kind of episode will have those 3 parts in it.
Great.
But we're starting it off right. We're starting with the music faculty. I did my
Yay.
first like casual chat interview on Zoom with some of my colleagues the other day. So that's we're going to open it strong with music.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I'm going to subscribe to that.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to subscribe to that too. I know.
Okay.
So, oh yeah, your favorite saxophone player?
How many do we have?
Just one.
One. Okay, John Coltrane. You had to make me choose.
Yeah.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Okay. What is the number one thing you tell your students all the time?
There are only 2 things that people are going to care about when you've graduated: your musical ability and how you treat people. So let's
one.
work on those 2 things. Let's focus on those goals.
Yeah. Awesome.
100%. Humanity and reputation is the way I like
Yes.
to say.
Yes.
If you were to go back in time and talk to your 15-year-old self, what sentence would you say to that 15-year-old?
Go outside. No, I think
Hold
I would.
tight.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Go out for a walk. But in addition to that, I think, don't take yourself too seriously. It's not all about you. I have to remind myself of that all the time still, but
yeah, for sure.
yeah, that's the one.
That's a good
Get
one.
out of your
I
head.
mean,
Yeah.
it's like as a musician, right? I get that because we all have to be in our heads a tremendous amount in order to have that solitary practice of getting better at instrument composing, whatever it is that you're doing. Because it can be a very solitary practice, but then you have to also know that the awareness piece of what's happening around you, musically and otherwise, is equally important.
Yeah, we live in community, whether we like it or not. And
Yeah.
that's important. Yeah.
Yeah.
And especially in jazz.
Yeah. 100%.
Kind of an important part. It's kind of a, as Phil Dwyer said, satellite dishes out. You have your satellite dishes out, and you're beaming your messages to everybody around you when you're playing. And yeah, for sure. Oh my gosh. You're amazing. Okay. Oh, that's it.
Yeah. That's
great.
it.
That's it for now.
Yeah. Until December 13th. Our webinar.
We got to leave a little bit for them to come back,
know.
right?
Yes. Can't tell them all the secrets
Yeah,
yet.
no.
Well, we're so excited to continue this and to share a lot. I mean, you guys got a little taste of Shirantha's amazing, really clear-headed, step-by-step scaffold teaching techniques, and he's very good and clear and amazing. So I think I'm looking forward to it because I'm sure I'm going to learn a lot too.
Me too.
And I know this is a little bit teacher focused, but if you are a teacher of any shape or form, like private instructor or teach classes at university or anywhere in between, you're going to get a lot out of this because it's a way of adding some technology potentially to your practice. And in 2020, because we don't know, we may be in and out of able to be in person and not, but also beyond, because students love tech. They're really comfortable with it. So as the non-young people, we maybe need to get comfortable using it and speaking this language. And I know that this pandemic, one of the net benefits of this time has been actually having time at home to learn. And so Amanda and I are learning. I know a lot of you are too. And Shirantha is someone who's just been ahead of the conversation for a long time. And so we are so excited to have more conversations about how to use this. So yay.
Absolutely. And I think, like Shirantha said, even if you're not a teacher, I think that it sounds like BandLab can be just used to make creations together. So if you just want to learn about a way to use a digital audio workstation in the cloud, join us as well.
Yep.
And I think Francesca's probably, for sure. I think Francesca's probably putting the links in the chat, but you can go visit musicartscollective.com and sign up for that if you like. We also have teaching great online music classes that we did for free back in September. If you want a primer, part 1, you can check that.
Yeah, that's free. We also have a free, we always have a free download of the month. Right now, there's a improv little worksheet that Amanda has put together. Come December, we will be putting up a reharmonization of a Christmas tune. So if you're on our mailing list, you'll have access to all of that stuff. I know. And actually, we're coming up in December. We have our webinar on the 13th, of course, and we will be doing a conversation with Heather Bambrick about how you can support artists during the Christmas season. And you can buy Shirantha's gorgeous CD.
Signed?
Whoa.
I don't have a signed one. I want a signed one. I'm going to have to order.
Sign that. Is that my evil twin? What's going on there?
So you can, of course, purchase Shirantha's music. Can you do it on your website, Shirantha? Do you have a store set up?
I do, yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
So that was the one trick I would invite all of you to actually go to people's websites and buy it off their store, and they will hand ship. And I know for me, I don't sign the CDs, but I do actually make a handmade card that I send to you. I draw you a little something. So anyway, Amanda and I have a little package we're going to be putting up on Music Arts Collective. So stay tuned for that, a little Christmas package and a little Christmas, what do we call it? Digital Monday? What's it called? What's the
Cyber Monday?
Cyber Monday.
We'll let you know tomorrow.
We'll let you know tomorrow. So stay tuned for that.
Yay.
Okay. Is that
Thank
it?
you so. I think so. Thank you so much, Shirantha. I think Francesca's probably putting your website in the chat too. So go check that out, everybody. And thanks again for being here.
Thank you for being here, Shirantha.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being so supportive of us too over the years. You're awesome. Awesome.
You all are doing amazing work. Amazing work.
We're all in it together, friend. We're all in it together. One big happy music family. All right, friends, have an awesome day. Stay well, stay safe, and get into that music room and go make some stuff, my friends. Go play your tunes and write your tunes. And we will see you all on next. Are we doing one next Sunday, Amanda?
Yeah, with Heather.
Oh, with Heather. Heather's next Sunday. Yes. And then Shirantha the following. So we'll see you next Sunday, 11 a.m.
And the next
time. And then the next Sunday. Okay. All right. Bye, everybody.